Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining our conversation tonight. My name is Iraida Martinez, and I work alongside with Francesca, who is our president. My ministry, she sends blessings and regards. We want to remind you that every Monday we have this conversation. We have our program every Monday at 8:30 p.m. So like the page, like this live, share it. Today we have a wonderful guest that is going to be joining us. Today's program it's going to be in English, but please tune in for our Spanish programs. Go to YouTube. We have plenty of programs that are there, and we hope that tonight's program it's going to be a blessing. Like I said, I have we have a wonderful guest. It's someone who I met about 2 years ago, and it's been a 2 year relationship, friendship. It's someone who I rely on for advice, someone who has helped me deal with some of my cancer anxieties. It's someone who is there to support not only me, but also other cancer moms. So I am really looking forward to our conversation tonight. Her name is Nancy Gardner. So I want to introduce Nancy. Nancy, welcome. Welcome to my ministry. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation and joining us tonight. As I was saying, I really look forward to our conversation tonight. I think your journey, your testimony, it's so inspiring, and I cannot wait to hear your story. We know that it's going to be a blessing to our listeners. So let's start with introductions. Tell me or tell our listeners, who is Nancy Gardner? Who are you? What do you enjoy? Tell us all about you.
So thank you all for having me. Like Iraida said, I met her when both our sons were going through the same kind of cancer. So it was just really a blessing to connect with someone through that awful time that knew exactly how I was feeling. And I feel like I was able to connect with her because I knew how she was feeling too. And just to have continued this journey is so amazing. And so, like she said, I'm Nancy Gardner. I've been married for 27 years. I have two amazing sons. My oldest is going to be 24 in April, and my youngest, who was the one that had Ewing sarcoma, will be 22 in November. My youngest son is also happens to have autism as well. So we've kind of been through quite a few challenges, but we just kept trying to look through the positive of everything and finding a reason to why things would happen, which gave us such purpose. To continue to help others was really our vision to keep going.
Great. So I know later on you'll be sharing some of the some of your accomplishments. But if you don't mind sharing a little bit about Jonathan's journey and your story.
Sure. So let me think. So when I think about Jonathan, he was born, and I feel like, I was almost thinking about this morning a little bit, just reflecting on what I would share and whatnot. And I thought to myself, wow, like, when I was pregnant with Jonathan, I had a really rough pregnancy. My oldest child was not a rough pregnancy, and I did miscarry before my oldest child was born. But then when I got pregnant with Jonathan, it was very challenging, to the point of where I was told I was miscarrying, and my husband brought me in to get a DNC, and for some reason, something told me not to go through with that appointment. And the two of us walked out and got a second opinion, and they're like, there is a slight heartbeat, and I was bedridden. And I'm glad I never went through with that, because it makes you think, like, there was a reason I was feeling like that, and I just really had to listen to my heart and my gut and walk out of there. And thank goodness, because we were able to have Jonathan born. And so, we never knew exactly what was going to be. We were prepared for whatever. We were just so happy. I remember when he came out, we counted all his fingers and toes, and we're so happy. And it was just, great. I mean, he had a hard time feeding. Everything seemed to be a challenge. Sleeping, feeding. He had allergies. We were in and out of the pediatrician's office much more than I was with my first son. Long story short, he was diagnosed a little after 1 year old with autism. And, I'll never forget what the first doctor told us. And he was so young when we brought him in, but we already had early intervention services, and we brought him in, and they had said to us, they had this whole team of doctors, and he was so little. And she said to me, I'm going to tell you, your son is going to have so many challenges. And at this point, he was headbanging, and we're just like, can we get past this, please? And I couldn't imagine what other challenges. Like, I'm like, I just want him to stop banging his head. And she's like, and every time one stops, and it will just stop out of the blue, boom, it's over. It'll be, she called it a watershed moment. And she goes, just like that, he'll be on to the next challenge and the next challenge, and they'll continue to evolve, and he'll never look back. And that challenge that he just put aside will not come back. And I have to say, that's been his journey. After each one, there's always another one, but those other ones have not come back. And just, my husband and I always refer to them, there was another watershed moment. And it's just amazing, because that's been his life going forward. And so he was nonverbal till almost, he really wasn't talking complete sentences till like really 8. And so we had early intervention, and then he went to school, public school at the age of 3, into public preschool, and then followed by kindergarten and first grade. Second grade was very challenging. Supports weren't being followed, which led him to a lot of self-injurious behaviors, and led him to eventually trying to jump out a window at school. And my husband and I being called, you have 5 minutes to get here, we're taking him to the ER ourselves. So that was his last day in public school. It happened was before Christmas break in his second grade year. And from there, we thought that being placed in a sub-separate school would be better for him. It wasn't. We did enroll him, and, it just wasn't good. He was physically abused. He was there for 9 days, and I took him out. And, it just, again, we thought to ourselves, why is this happening? I don't know. It just like couldn't get any worse. So we pulled him out of school. I homeschooled him. And during the first few years that I pulled him out, we did a lot of mental health therapy. It was very important that we were able to get his mental health in check, because that was really causing him lots of more self-injurious behaviors and different things that were just so challenging. And I kept thinking back to what that doctor told me. I'm like, oh, we're never going to get past these moments. But we did. And he was able to really flourish because he felt safe. And I was able to let him learn at his own pace, which I think was one of the reasons why there was such pushback at school, and he didn't feel like he fit in there, because there's such, need to go with everyone else. And he was not able to read until he was probably really wasn't reading well till, I don't know, 14, 15. But again, that's okay. And he reads really well now. So, and he speaks really well. We brought in a lot of community supports. We had wonderful community support from our local college at Bridgewater State University. He got his speech and language services through them, which was a godsend. And he participated in a swim program for special needs children and gross motor program. And these were places that he felt safe and accepted at. So he did really, really well. And I think that was really the key. So that was just like a little of his background throughout the school years, I guess. And then when he turned 13, it was really important for me to start thinking about, okay, future planning and whatnot for him. So we talked about visions and how can we go about a vision. And he said to me, all I want to do is make sure no one else gets abused at school, and I want to help others. And that became his vision. And he was able to mentor a young boy in our district that was having school refusal. From there, he became a skills trainer to other kids with disabilities, and then he got cancer. And that kind of just blew our minds wide open. So I mean, again, just like, when you just think, I'll never forget sitting on the couch 2 weeks before his cancer diagnosis, my husband, and we both looked at each other and I said, I just feel like a big weight is off our shoulders. Things are going really well. And he's coming into his own. And it was just a wonderful feeling. And, we just had to get past what was causing him this pain. And, we just figured never in our wildest mind did we think it was cancer. But it was, and we got through it. And that's what we did. So
thank you so much for being so open, Nancy, about the wonderful work that you've done with Jonathan. And I go back to our earlier conversation where, I was asking you, how should we, what should we put on the promo, advocate, mom, and you told me, I really don't see myself as an advocate. I'm just a mom. I've gotten to know Jonathan. I know how wonderful he is, and I know the great job that you and your family have done with him. And someday in the very near future, we'll have you again, and we'll have Jonathan join the conversation. He's not feeling that great today, so he couldn't join.
Yeah, he's got a little bug today.
But it's amazing. And I love when you, at the beginning, when you said, that there was a purpose.
Yeah.
And it's just great, the way God works. And, when he has a purpose with someone, it's just amazing how he works.
It gives us the reason, and there was always a reason why things happened. I remember even back in the day, I thought, we're going to sue the school. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And when it came time and I found a lawyer and we got our acts together, again, just thinking of our life's journey, and the lawyer said, I got some good news for you and I got some bad news. You are 2 days past your, what is it called? I always forget that. Statute of limitations. You've lost them by 2 days. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, what's the good news? I'm like, there's good news to this. And he said, yes, you could still make a difference. And we're trying to work on a bill to pass the restraint and seclusion law in Massachusetts so no other children do get hurt. Um, and so that was really springboarded us right into advocacy. Um, it took Jonathan a long time, lots of therapy to get his story written down. He could not speak it, but we were able to put words down on paper and it was brought. And his was one of the stories that helped pass that law. And it did give us purpose because it made us feel that that part of his journey we did not go through for just no reason. And it did help to fulfill his vision of helping someone else. So it really did give us such purpose. And I feel like I've always felt that something is, watching over us and guiding us and, from the very beginning. And I just am so thankful and so blessed for every day that we have together. And I think you realize that more when your child becomes sick too. Um, I was thankful for before, and now I just wake up every morning and thank God that I'm here to see him and he's here to see us, and we're all together. And family is so important, and just all of us being together. It's my favorite thing.
Every day it's a blessing, and we don't, we definitely don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Um, so Nancy, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
if you can share with us, you know, when you heard or when your family heard about Jonathan's cancer diagnoses,
Sure.
talk to
Um,
us about that moment and how you
mhm.
felt and how did you cope with it?
So Jonathan was having a lot of leg pain. We went to multiple doctors. It was right at the beginning of COVID. Um, Doctor after doctor, we were being dismissed. There was a lot of overshadowing due to his autism. And we finally did, again, I feel like God was watching over us because I was told, I kept calling doctors, like, who can we see? Well, no one, we don't do anything below the knee. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to find a doctor that will take him seriously and find out what's going on. So I said to one of the receptionist when I called, I'm like, can you recommend someone? Because we're going through doctors crazy, like, and we just need to find out what's going on. And she said, I have the name of a doctor who's excellent, but I don't know if you'll get in. She's so busy. So I took her number and I called. I was put on a waiting list. And don't you know, the next day I got a call back saying someone made a cancellation and we were in there. And I'll never ever forget, she looked Jonathan right in the eyes. He was sitting on a table and she said, I have no idea what's wrong with you, but I'm going to find out. And she did. She did all more testing. She was the one that finally got him into having an MRI done. And she was the one that, told us that he had cancer. So what happened was they did a biopsy. She thought that was probably what it was. So then the next stage was going to the hospital to get the biopsy. We were still holding on to hope that it wasn't that. And I remember it was Easter weekend. So he went on a Friday, and they give you that lovely portal that and I was checking it every 5 minutes thinking,
Yep.
and everyone's like, then you're not going to get an answer till Monday because it's a holiday weekend and whatnot. And then we were all sitting on the couch and my iPad said, you have a new test results. And I thought,
Lovely my chart.
right. And so I opened it up to check and I'm reading it and everyone else is just watching TV. My oldest son had come home for the weekend just because everyone wanted to be together. God forbid, and I'm reading it and I was like, oh, I don't know what a sarcoma is, but I don't think that's good. And I excused myself from being downstairs and I came upstairs and I called my best friend who herself has had cancer too many times, and knew that she would be very truthful with me. And she was, and we cried. And Jonathan came upstairs and said, "What is going on?" And I got off the phone and I said to him, I cannot lie to him. I don't, so he knew, I knew, my husband and son did not know. He insisted on being the one to tell them. I went downstairs and told them. It was just a hot mess. Nobody knew what, I don't know, just this weird feeling comes over. Like it's almost like it's not real. Um, uh, an incredible feeling comes over you. I can't explain it. I've never had it before. Just like, what in the world are we going to do? And he actually made a video that night and said, "I want to send this to my best friend," and saying, "I don't want you to worry about me. I'm going to be okay." And he was more worried about everyone else. What are we going to tell Grandma and Papa? What are we going to, tell this one? And I, I don't know. I did not sleep. I think that was the last time I slept for probably a year. It was the day before we got that. I still don't sleep well, but it just was the worst feeling. And I don't know. I cried that one day, and then I did not cry again until months after he was done. I just went through the motions and just started, this is what we need to do. I got on the phone. I must have messaged Easter Sunday so many messages to these doctors like, "How can you put this in the portal and not be available?" They must have thought I was so crazy before they even met me. They probably
You went into mom mode.
I definitely went into mom mode. And but you know what? We just all went. I feel like Jonathan went into, okay, survivor, like thinking survivor mode. Okay, this is my job now. This is what I got to do. I'm going to focus on getting well. My husband focused on, okay, how am I going to, everyone went into like, how are we going to fix this the best way we can? And we just started that journey, which was ever overwhelming and never knowing what to expect. But together we got through it. It's just crazy.
I would say you come closer as a family.
Oh, definitely.
You all go into survivor mode.
Yeah.
It's I speak for myself. Like it never so many people think of cancer as a death sentence.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say for me and also for my family, that has never crossed our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we get antsy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have those negative thoughts that come to mind.
Yep.
But like you said, we're on survivor mode. This is about surviving. This is about beating cancer.
Yep.
It's
the only choice we have.
That's right. It's not gonna knock us down. It's not gonna stop us. We're determined to beat this.
Yep.
And it's Ewing sarcoma. It's a really it's considered a rare cancer, although we hear I pretty much on a daily basis. We're hearing more about new people getting diagnosed, and it's considered a childhood cancer.
Yeah.
But more adults are being diagnosed on a daily basis. So, for me, I've made this journey. For me, it's all about awareness, raising awareness, talking to people about Ewing sarcoma, about cancer, just encouraging people that the word cancer doesn't necessarily mean you're done or your job here on earth, it's done.
It's your new normal.
It's, it has its ups and downs, but it's all about not giving up and, continue to move on.
It's interesting because Jonathan was just about to be going for his 2-year checkup. And we were at an event and someone had said to him, if you could take away your autism or take away your cancer journey, would you? And I was like, whoa, that's powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't think twice about it. And he said, absolutely not. He's just like, this is a part of me. And if I didn't go through what I did go through, I wouldn't be Jonathan. And I wouldn't also, and he told this on his 2-year checkup, he told his medical team, who are just simply the best humans that I know, that he also wouldn't have met them. And he feels that they're his family now. They saved his life and they are forever part of his life now. And I have mixed feelings about that. Would I never say I would never want that yet? You never want your kid to be sick. You don't.
Absolutely not.
And the fear of the unknown as we move into, now we're into 2 years, no evidence of disease. So like I was telling you, now he goes 6 months before every scan. And I hope it always stays that way. But the unknown is scary. But for him to have that faith, and he said to them, he's just like, I know if it ever comes back, I trust all of you. You're going to take the best care of me. And that is just like, we were all crying, because it's just so wonderful that he has that much trust in his medical team, and I know they will, and hopefully it's always just for good checkups, but it's nice to know we have their support moving forward, and because they have become like family to us.
He's such an awesome kid. And I knew he would say that.
Yeah. And he would do every day. We used to keep like a journal with his therapist. We would try really hard to find one thing, even on the worst days. What was one thing that brought us joy? Whether it was me tripping over my own 2 feet and it made him laugh for a second, just that one little thing. There's always one thing in everyone's day that would bring us joy. And we still try and do that. It was just a good way to reflect, like the whole day was not bad. There was that one thing. And that's just how we've changed our lives now. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, okay, I'll never forget, we were driving out of MGH on a Friday. We would go home on the weekends. Friday afternoon, driving out, and there's this big hill when you get out of the garage, like you drive up the big hill, and all of a sudden my car just died. I'm like, oh, this is such a bad place for my car to die. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And I'm like, oh, could it get any worse, right? And so I called my husband. He's like, all right, you're trying to do these things. And we finally get it started again. He's like, drive to a car dealership. So I drive to a car dealership. Jonathan was so tired and so worn out from the whole week of treatments. And we ended up, that was it. I don't know how I got to that car dealership. I really don't, but I did. And that was the last of that car. And we had to get a new car that day. And so, looking at that whole day, our joy was making it to the car dealership safely.
Yep.
Being able to finance a new car, right? That's what brought us joy that day. So just changing our thoughts, have really progressed every day that we are here.
It's finding joy and finding, a positive in the midst of chaos.
Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yes.
You know,
And
our
it's possible. It's possible for everyone to do that.
That's right. That's right. So I'm sure that, throughout Jonathan's cancer journey, you had to make difficult decisions. Do you feel comfortable sharing some of those decisions
Yeah.
that
So
you had to make?
I know he doesn't. I asked him if there was anything off the table to talk about, and he's like, "Not for you." He said, so when Jonathan was going through his cancer journey, he was 18 when he started. And because he was 18 and he had autism, we were already practicing what a form of, it's an alternative to guardianship, and it's called supported decision making, which puts him in charge of his own decisions with supporters. So my husband and I were his support people for health. We were practicing it, but at the end of the day, all the decisions are up to him. So I was told by a couple of professionals, you really should pull full guardianship, because what are you going to do when he no longer wants treatment? And it stuck in my head, but I'm like, I just needed to move day by day. I could not think about what if. I just needed to get through my day. The day came. He was about 6 months into the chemo, 2 weeks into full radiation every day. And he was done. And he said, I want to die. I want to stop my treatments and I want to die. I honestly, my husband and I didn't know what to do. We took time away to think, and I went back and I said to him, he was crying. He was so upset. He was having all these reactions to everything. It was just unbelievable. And I said to him, I don't know what the right answer is, honey, but you're going to have to put your faith in me to try and figure it out. And I think the only way we can figure it out is to call your medical team and see what they can suggest, because I don't know what is appropriate for chemo and radiation. I don't know these things. He agreed to let me talk to his medical team, and they agreed his mental health was very, very important to move forward in this journey. And they were able to come up with a solution that allowed him to finish out his radiation, because he had to do 31 days in a row, and take a little break from the chemo. It was scary. The thought of it is still scary to me. But like they say, they have no evidence to say that it makes it come back, and no evidence to say that it won't make it come back. So, you have to weigh your pros and cons. And at the end of the day, it was his decision to do that, and we supported him. And when all of this was happening, one of my friends knew that we were practicing supported decision making, and they were trying to pass the bill to make it a law, because it's not law yet. And they contacted us to see if we would testify at a state level for it while in the hospital. So Jonathan had to think about it. And we met with a couple of people, and he was able to put his testimony on video. We weren't able to go to the State House. His immune system was not well enough to do that. And it just really, again, gave us some purpose and took the perspective of, okay, there is reason for me going through this. We're going to get this bill passed, and more people with disabilities are going to be able to access the hospital with their support person like I did. And there's not going to be pushback, and there's not going to be all this waiting. And we're still working on it, but we're hopeful in a couple of weeks that it does get passed. So Jonathan's been advocating for it for years. And and I'm proud to sit next to him as he does it. Again, just giving us purpose. And I'll never forget, Jonathan used to say at the very beginning of his treatments, he got very close to, well, he got close to all his medical team, but especially one of the nurses there. And he would say to him, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And I'll never forget, he had just finished his treatment and we're driving to a work event. And I get this text from his nurse, David, and he said, I figured it out, Nancy. I know why this happened to Jonathan, so that he can change everyone else's lives and make people realize that there's more out there and that when you work hard, and he went on and on and on about all these things that Jonathan had accomplished through adversity and all these different things. He said, that's why this happened, because here you are going to an event to share your story so that someone else doesn't struggle. And he said, that's why it's happening. And I was like, wow, and he just keeps doing it. He just keeps doing these things. He's had a lot of health discrimination throughout his life that continued before and after his cancer journey. And he just keeps standing up and saying, not okay, and trying to change these laws and doing what he needs to do for himself and others. And I can't tell you, my heart is so full, just so full.
It's awesome. Like you said, it gave him a purpose.
Yep.
A cancer diagnosis, it's not fun.
No.
But it's given him so much purpose to, like that nurse said, to help others.
Yeah.
And he's done a wonderful job. I'm very inspired by Jonathan. And as you know, I follow you on Facebook, and every time there's a new video out there of you both speaking, and advocating for that bill, I'm listening.
Thank you.
Because again, I find it so inspiring. So it's just amazing.
Amazing.
We talked about Ewing sarcoma earlier. That's one of the things that we have in common, right? Or one of the many things that we have in common. Both of our kids have been diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. We know that the regimen, it's a pretty strong one.
Yeah.
Talk to us about any strategies, any lifestyle changes that you or Jonathan did throughout treatment that you feel could be beneficial to any of our listeners who might be going through treatment.
Sure. So, like I said before, one of our strategies was keeping a journal and writing one thing that brought us joy every day. It definitely was, and to be able to reflect back on that was really, really helpful. This day was hard, but look, we did find something. Another strategy we had, I'll never forget, Jonathan was having a really challenging time just being away from home so much too. And we were both away from home, 5 days out of the week. My husband had to work, he had to come home, take care of the dog. So it was challenging for everybody. It affected the whole entire family. And just one day I think his panic got inside of him and we both were having just full-blown panic attacks. And I remember calling his counselor saying, listen, my brain's not working. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like we're both spiraling. And she's like, well, you're both having panic attacks. So I'm like, oh, great. So, she came up with a strategy that she said she felt would be really beneficial to us because we both love the water. And when we come home on the weekends, we would go, and that was our goal, just put our toes in the water at the beach, any beach that we could find that wasn't crowded or whatever. That was always the goal of our weekend. And we tried to accomplish that every weekend. So she taught us how to ride the wave, as she would say, in our minds. And she would tell us to put, and we use this strategy still to this day, and to picture ourselves on a boogie board, because Jonathan just so loved the ocean. Um, and all is going well, and there's no waves to rock us off. And then all of a sudden comes that big wave and just throws us both off. And then we're struggling to stay afloat. But sooner or later, that boogie board would come, we'd get back on it and bring us to shore where it's safe. There's no amount of time that she could tell us it would take to get back on the boogie board, but to remember that we always would, and it would bring us back to shore where we would be safe. So we always would think of our challenges as we're just lost in the ocean. And sooner or later, we would be able to pick ourselves up and come back to shore. And we made a rule to never, it'd be okay to feel pity for ourselves sometimes. It would be okay to cry, and it would be okay to, you know, just be like, this stinks and it's not fair, but only for a short period of time. We did not allow any of ourselves more than a day of that. Because if you get too stuck in that, sometimes it's too hard to get out.
Mhm.
So we would help each other pick ourselves out of that, because it just wasn't okay. And that definitely helped, knowing that we had each other to lean on for that, and to say, you know what, you've been wallowing a little bit too much. Let's take out our notebook and write down something joy now, and, and believe. And, another thing, actually, I'm just looking at that. God is your daily strength. And one of the things, we had so many people saying, oh, let me bring you presents, let me bring you food, let me bring you this. And I'm like, all Jonathan wanted were prayers. So we made a tree that still sits in our family room today. Actually, it became a big wall. And I sent leaves out and said, if you want to bring us something, write a prayer on a leaf so we can put it on our tree and stick it in our mailbox. And people were writing prayers. They were bigger than leaves that we had to stick on the wall, but we filled like half a wall in our house with them, along with the tree. And we would read them every single day. And we still, they are part of our house now.
Amen.
And it just brought us so much peace to know we were loved, people were praying for us, and we could do this.
It's wonderful. I think sometimes, unless you've been through this journey, you might not necessarily know what to say,
Right.
What to do. Like you said, people were asking, what can I bring you, or can I cook for you? They're trying to show their support,
Right.
not knowing that sometimes prayer, it's more than enough.
Definitely.
A hug, it's more
Yep.
than enough.
Yep.
Just sending a message, letting the patient or the caregiver, or you know someone in the family, just letting them know we're with you.
Yep.
We're praying for you.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, not knowing how to support a cancer patient or a cancer family.
Yeah. It was so nice when he'd come home, like on a Friday. My husband would leave all the mail on the kitchen table, and most of the mail were just leaves to put on the tree from people that
That's awesome.
we knew, or people that had seen it on Facebook that we really weren't even that good of friends with. But it was amazing how many people came together to give that prayer for Jonathan, and it worked, because he's here and he's living his best life, and he wakes up every day so thankful for it. And we all do. It's just brought that, like you said, you don't know unless you're walking in those shoes. I never would have known, or been able to fully, I don't want to say appreciate, isn't really the right word, but understand what someone is going through that has someone that they love that is so sick. It definitely changed our lives. forever. But that's okay because because it's okay because we're together and it's going to be okay.
It changes your life. It changes your your
Absolutely.
priorities. It pretty much turns your life upside down. And
Yep.
sometimes it's exactly what you needed, to come together as a family, to strengthen your faith. Um, it's you just have to see the positive into
Yep.
this chaotic situation.
And find that
Um,
joy.
yep.
You
So
got
moving forward, fast forward,
it.
he's been a year, that he's
2 years.
been 2 years. So
2 years.
2 years, NED, which
Hmm.
stands for no evidence of disease.
Hmm.
Um, how how's your life now? We know, and you've already shared with us that this journey has definitely changed your life. It has changed Jonathan's life. I let's talk about Nancy. Is Nancy today different than who she was a year ago? And how does your life and how does Jonathan's life looks like today?
So I am completely different. Gosh, I when Jonathan was diagnosed with autism, I was never someone that spoke up for herself, um, or anything like that. But then you have kids and you have to do certain things because you're a mom and you need to. And then so I did speak up for myself, but I used to have so much just back and forth. Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Just so much self-doubt, which I still have a lot of self-doubt. But I feel that the difference between advocating for him at the school and advocating for his medical, and now as my children both are now um, young adults, just I am so much more at peace than I ever was. I am much more calmer than I ever was. And I feel like, you know what? Everything's going to be okay, even if it's a little rocky. Um, I feel like I have a different perspective of life if I can wake up in the morning and be able to talk to my mom and dad and see my family. That is a really good day. It is a really, really good day because that's what's important to me. And I think we all feel that way, that we have to do what's going to bring us that joy and find what's important to us. And I will also say, as Jonathan has self-evolved into a wonderful advocate, um, knowing that I can stand beside him as he does this and be part of this is just so wonderful because it brings me purpose as to why our lives unfolded like this. And just, I don't know, we both, it brought us 2 new jobs. We both work for the ARC of Massachusetts, where we try to make sure that everyone gets the health care they deserve. Um, so, which is wonderful. We're both doing advocacy at state levels. Jonathan actually is heading to Washington in April to advocate on Capitol Hill. And my husband and I are just like beyond like, how does this happen? Right. But there's just no stopping him or either of my kids. I don't mean to not talk about Eric because Eric's is wonderful himself. And like just the closeness, they were close before, but the closeness that they have now is just, it's very hard to explain. They're just always going to be there for each other, in a way that we never would have expected, but that's just how it is. And I don't know, I want to say I am a better person than I was before. I used to think, if Jonathan didn't have autism, would I be so open-minded to differences? And then he got cancer, and it's like, would I be so empathetic? And I would like to say I would be, but I don't know if I would be, because life just kind of evolves, and I hope I would be, but I think that it just has given me the opportunity to help more people and to live their best lives.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Nancy. I think cancer or any type of diagnoses or illness, it makes you stronger, and that's how I see it. It's something that just builds your character, and
Yep.
it brings that empathy even louder.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you can feel for others, and it's seeing the positive
Yep.
into the midst of all the chaos in life. So we're coming close to an end. What advice would you share with someone who might be struggling, whether it's with a recent illness, diagnoses? What advice would you give them?
Oh, just to hang in there, because tomorrow's a new day and there'll be a new piece of joy to find. And just to look for it throughout the day, because it's there. It's there waiting for you to find it.
Awesome. All right. So, Nancy, it's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Many blessings to you and your family.
Same to all of you.
It's been, again, it's been such a blessing getting to know you these past 2 years, and just sharing our cancer journey together. I'm sure we'll see you again, and we'll have Jonathan on as well.
And that's been one of the blessings of cancer, is getting to know you too and your family, because right, I couldn't have done it without you. So
same here. Again, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
Really.
So thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us, your story.
Thank you.
I am more than sure that it's going to be a blessing to a few people, because it's been a blessing to me and my family. So I know it's going to be a blessing to others. So thank you so much for joining tonight, and we want to remind our listeners to tune in next Monday at 8:30. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.